so we are going to open up the IDA meeting at 5:15 p.m. Wednesday, January 17th, 2024, and call the meeting to order and roll call.
Dean Tamburri.
Present.
Jeffrey Christ.
Present.
Giovanni Palladino.
Present.
Susan Walski.
Present.
Mark Green.
Present.
So we have 5 of 7 board members, 2 absentees, staff, myself, Bill Fioravanti, Kelly Riley, Marty Barras, Jose Rojas doing AV with acquisitions marketing, and our general counsel, Susan Katzoff, via Zoom.
Thank you, Bill. And we'll move on to the minutes. To approve the minutes of December 20th, 2023, the Board of Director meeting minutes that we have been sent to us and we have in front of us. We had a chance to review. If there's any questions or comments, we'll take them. If not, ask for a motion to accept them as presented.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes, having previously read them.
Thank you, Sue. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff. Ask for a motion to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? None? Hear none? It passes as presented. And then again, the reorganization meeting, we was recommended for the governance meeting of December. Reorganization meeting, we have the chairman of Jeff Christ. As in a previous meeting, I had said that I'll make a motion to appoint Jeff Christ for the IDA chairman moving forward. I appreciate it. Your experience coming forward, the time that you have to spend on that's necessary for this board, I appreciate it. The conversations we had and moving the board forward. So I'll make the motion for Jeff Christ to be chair. For a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
I abstain.
One abstain. Motion passed. Welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dean. And again, I look forward to working with everybody, and feel free to reach out to me. And most importantly, on behalf of the board, I again offer our sincere thanks to you, Dean, for stepping up as acting chair. And I would also say I've enjoyed our interaction, you helping to teach me the goings on here at the Orange County IDA, and looking at all those factors. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the floor is yours, Mr. Chairman.
Moving on, the election of vice chair. Would anyone care to make a nomination?
I'll nominate Dean Tamburri.
A motion, or a what do you call it, for Dean Tamburri?
I'll second.
As vice chair. Yeah, thank you, Mark Green.
Got your back.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Welcome aboard for
Thank
vice
you.
chair. Look forward to
Thank you.
working with you again as chair and vice chair.
Thank you, sir.
For secretary, do we have a nomination there?
I'll nominate Vincent Odock.
A motion for Vincent Odock, nomination I should say. Second to that,
I'll second.
by Giovanni. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Secretary Dr. Vincent Odock is in place for 2024. Moving on to the IDA chairman's appointments for committees. The Accelerator Committee, I appoint Dean Tamburri as chair, Susan Walski, and Giovanni Palladino. On the Audit Committee, I appoint Susan Walski as chair, Mark Green, James Rinaldi, and Dean Tamburri. For Finance Committee, Mark Green for chair, Dean Tamburri, James Rinaldi, and myself, Jeffrey Christ. And finally, on the Governance Committee, Jeffrey Christ for chair, Dean Tamburri, Dr. Vincent Odock, and Giovanni Palladino. And those appointments should be in place for 2024. Moving on to reports, Bill Fioravanti, our CEO, please provide your report.
Okay, thank you. I'll give you a few quick updates, and then we're going to do our kind of annual update, what we're really required to do, and provide the board some highlights, which I'm going to hand that out. Dean, can I give you those? Mark, same here, please. But first of all, we had a public hearing for Lenches, otherwise known as the Castle Fun Center. That was held at that facility in Chester on December 13th. It was a successful hearing. We had representation from the mayor's office there, and I've had conversations with the mayor and his staff since then to make sure they understood exactly the nature of the project, the changes to the project, the request for additional sales tax exemption and such. So that was successful. That's something I expect to come back before the board for approval in February. Our 2023 fiscal audit is ongoing right now, being conducted by PKF O'Connor Davies. They've asked for a lot of information. They were here all week last week. Like we do with so many other things, need to give Kelly and Marty a lot of credit. First of all, they put together our confirmation letters that went out to all of our projects to confirm their job statistics, all their sales tax exemption figures, all that kind of stuff. Marty puts those letters out. It's a heavy lift, and then getting all that back and making sure they collect. They come in, and of course, just providing the auditors with all the information they need. So I really want to thank them for that. It's a heavy lift. The audit they're done here in person, but they're still requesting information. Really, their deadline for the audit is our audit committee meeting on March 5th. So that's when they present the completed audit to the committee, and then our board meeting that follows that will be when the board receives it, ultimately, hopefully approves it, and then we'll post it to Paris, report it that way. So that's going on. Nothing new with the monitor, but we do expect their timeline, the Inspector General's timeline is that an appointment will be made and someone to be in place by March. So I expect to know more. January is still their evaluation period, and it's a blackout period. They're not allowed to really communicate with us about the process, so we'll know more when they come out of that period. There was a question in the last meeting about collateralization of our CDs and such. We were instructed to do that. We had asked for it, but we just want to verify that there was collateralization, and there is. Kelly, you can confirm that, right? That we have our letters for all the CDs that we have. The only thing we don't have collateralization for are T-bills, and Mark, you could explain that, right? They're government backed essentially,
Yeah.
So they are secured
Yes.
in that sense.
Also, the Connect One CD does not have collateral.
That was an early one before one of our first CD,
That's
before we really.
expiring in May, right?
I
Correct.
believe so.
That's the only exposure we have is with one that before we really understood the rules, we purchased that CD, and when that expires, we won't have that again. I also continue to present to school district leaders. I presented a couple of weeks ago at the BOCES offices to the assistant superintendents for business. So those are the folks that are really directly related to the role that we play. And I had a well-received presentation, and we had great dialogue afterward. I'm going to meet with the menacing superintendent and the business officer just to actually gain a greater understanding of how what we do can impact the tax cap that they have to wrestle with. So that's something we didn't really understand well. We're going to meet about that. So I'm just proud of the fact that we really have dialogue and building relationships with those folks. I'll be attending the New York State Economic Development Council's conference in Albany, February 13th and 14th, and Jeff Christ is going to join me as well. He's reserved, so thank you for participating in that. In the retirement plan, we continue to move forward. I think we're finally have everything in place. As you know, and it's in our financials, we made our contribution for the deferred compensation of $63,000 for 2023. And now we're just getting everything set up so that we're making our own contributions, withholdings as employees, with a match, a 5% match from the IDA. So that is pretty much all in place, and starting next week, we'll have those withholdings happening and our own, again, employee contributions to the plan. I will note that our retirement advisor for this, I guess the company Spectrum, they made it clear that we don't have to make the employer contributions, the match, weekly with our payroll, or even monthly. We can do it quarterly, and their Spectrum is going to come here and work with us to make those contributions each quarter. So that is a little bit of a bumpy road, but it's really, I feel we're finally on our way. And then now to the annual report piece. There's two documents you have in front of you. First is our projects matrix, which we update every couple of months. This, in the content of this spreadsheet, just so you know, are only projects that since the administration of the IDA was changed over. Since I came in, the staff, and of course, we have a temporary board with some members that are here, and then we've continued to evolve this board. But that started with Green Thumb or Fiorello Industries, the cannabis manufacturer out of Warwick, and most recently the Lunches project is before you. So this is really a tally. It tells you from left to right exactly where everything stands. I'll just summarize it, that as you see at the totals at the bottom, just since March of 21, we've had $1.2 billion in projects in front of us in terms of capital investment. And that represented 3,800 construction jobs and more than 1,000 permanent jobs. Now, that's, again, this is what I think the public needs to understand, and we all, as members and staff, we all need to understand is, kind of talks to the fragility of these projects, that these are all projects that came before us. Some of them, for one reason or another, withdrew their application at some point during the process. Several of them have been approved by the IDA, by this board, but not yet closed, meaning the actual transaction not closed. And that's usually because the applicant is often waiting for other financing or other approvals, hoops they have to go through before they're ready to close. And even after we've closed projects, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that are on the list here. We have, how many have been built? We have about 5 projects that have been, construction's been completed, and some that are never gonna happen. So that's, again, just that there are so many factors at play with these projects that even when this board provides the incentives that they need in order to do the deal, it doesn't ensure that it's gonna actually happen. So as far as what's under construction, $382 million of capital investment, 936 construction jobs, and 334 permanent jobs. So that's what has been created in part by the inducements approved by this board. And for 2023 specifically, to highlight the stats here, we had 8 new applications, 6 advanced public hearings, 5 received final approval by this board. This year, 1 closed. We have 3 that are soon to close, and we have one that we approved late in 22 that's kind of still in limbo, frankly. So that's just from a project standpoint. And then I provided, I think I may have given my copy as well, though I have it here. Thanks, Dean. Just quick highlights. I just went over the project activity, board development. We were down a person again, and we did complete have a full board with Mr. Chris joining us. I believe it was in October. And another real big movement we were trying to make was, rather than all the work of the IDA being, at least board work essentially, being done in the board meeting, we really flattened out the organization and pushed a lot of things out to committee-driven work with the committees that were obviously named with the reappointments by the chairman. And I think the committees are functioning very well, and they're making our board meetings more efficient as well. And lastly, we have a board training scheduled for actually a week from now, which is something we've been looking to do for a while, so I'm really excited that's happening. Shovel ready, that was a major accomplishment of 2023. We completed our phase 1 study with Delaware Engineering. That identified more than 500 developable properties around Orange County. The real critical part, I think, to many of us around the table is what is going to happen in 2024, our phase 2, where we're going to cull through that data and identify some properties that we could potentially make investments in to get them further towards shovel ready. I will, just as a side note, mention, that we applied for Fast New York for a project that could fit that bill, a property in the town of Montgomery. We're applying for some remaining 2023 Fast New York dollars. Governor Hochul just put out her proposed budget for 2024. It includes another $100 million of funding for Fast New York, so which again dovetails with what we're trying to do with shovel ready. So that's a great piece. School districts, I touched on it with my meeting this past month. We are really bridging the gap there. I think we were seen as adversaries, and I think that's very much what the relationship was. My understanding from many of the school districts is that the prior administration, there wasn't really a lot of desire to build a bridge and communicate and hear each other out. We certainly changed that through a number of presentations and in-person meetings we had. I remember Dean and I had a lunch with the menacing superintendent and board president. Really, really helpful. So that's something I'm proud of. PR and media, we've really tried to take a turn there. We've used print, radio, TV, doing podcasts. I've been a guest on podcasts. I'm hosting a podcast. Social media, we really stepped up in the last couple of months. And again, in-person presentations. And we've tried to pivot where we're not just reacting to attacks or other stories that are being created not by us, and we've initiated some of our own stories, including trying to make noise about positive things like shovel-ready. Next is housing. This was a bold venture, I think, into this area. Not something everyone supported, but this board did right from the get-go understand the importance of addressing the housing crisis, number one, and helping to combat some impediments to economic development, where if we can't have enough workers living here, it's going to be difficult to attract the kinds of projects that we're interested in. So we did make that bold move. We received 2 applications. One was kind of scared away, frankly, and the other you approved recently in Walk Hill Living Center. So I think we're on our way with that, and something I think we all should be proud of. On the back side of your highlight sheet, the accelerators, we did the bulk of our dismantling of that program last year by attrition, meaning when the leases ran out, we cut our expenses significantly as a result of that. I think something totaling around $2.7 million by cutting out the accelerator. But we did it in the most, I think, dignified way, trying to really respect all the small businesses that were, they benefited from this, but they also were victim by what happened. And we treated them all with dignity and respect, and I feel good about the way we ended that phase of our work. The retirement plan, as I mentioned earlier, we kind of rectified a long-standing wrong of not having an adequate plan for our employees, and we established that plan, so kudos to all of you for supporting that as well. Our resiliency loan fund, the original balance, $476,000 in loans, and we received close to 90% in repayment, so far more than what anyone anticipated that we would, and we're still continuing to collect on that. And lastly, last but not least, continue our record of on-time comprehensive reporting through the PARA system to the authority's budget office, the state comptrollers and such, and we did have an on-time successful budget, a financial audit for 2022, and they had just a couple of suggestions in their management letter, which we had acted upon. So I think that's a positive thing as well. Those are the highlights. There are others, but those are kind of the main highlights for 2023. A really productive year. Not to mention the noise that we dealt with, things that we didn't bring on ourselves. That we did. Dean mentioned that in our prior meeting. There's some baggage that came along with it, but we still kept focused and moving ahead of what our mission is, and I'm proud of that. Any questions on the 2023 review?
No, good.
Anything for Bill? Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, sir.
I had one quickie, maybe I didn't hear you correctly. The audit committee meeting, I think, is on March 6th.
I think I said the 5th. It is on March 6th. Thank you.
Just
Thank
to
you.
clarify,
You're right. Thanks very
5
much.
p.m. Very good. Moving on then to the committee reports, Finance Committee. Mark Green, please.
Well, this will be a little longer. So let's start on page 6 and kind of go through some of the highlights. If we look at the top, 83,600 and change interest for a CD that came due at the end of December that we'll talk about a little bit more. We have in our expenses that 19,000 is part of the audit that we mentioned in the previous meeting. Professional fees, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but this came back to us, right, because it got billed incorrectly?
Correct.
And so the OCFC paid back to the OCIDA. The travel and lodging, I believe most of this was mileage. Bill finally got his receipts in for his mileage. Moving down, IT support, marketing, PR, membership and events, I don't really have much there. Legal, you can see. The local labor, that's a pass-through, right? The audit, the job sites. Down to payroll expenses, all relatively the same as last month, except you will see the 63,000. That was the 401k contribution at the end of the year. And then kind of the rest of it is, what we've seen in the past. Depreciation, rent, that kind of thing. Any question on that real quick that I didn't address that jumps out at anybody?
I just have a question on the labor auditing fee. You said that's a pass-through. Where do we show that money coming back into the organization? Because right now it just shows it as a liability, right?
It is as an expense.
So every quarter, we cut a check from the escrow accounts and put it into the IDA account.
So an escrow account is set up
I understand.
originally, right?
But it doesn't show that income coming back to us as a reimbursement on this sheet, unless I'm reading it wrong.
No, fair enough.
I just, that's all.
We did it back in November.
It's a timing issue.
So deposit. It's not an every month thing that we do.
I can't off the top of my head confirm though for him that it does appear in the revenue section when we do that.
We
You
have
know
to
if
go
that's
back to
true?
the November reports.
We can share it too.
Yeah.
Let us verify that for you.
Just because it helps us with the budget, because right now
Sure.
we're showing that as an expense.
Exactly.
Because if you go to year-to-date, it's almost $19,000, or $18,141. I just want to.
We only have a couple of applicants, projects, who fall under our old policy, under which the IDA paid for that monitoring. So all of our new projects are, the expenses borne by the applicant, and that's the escrow accounts that Kelly's talking about. We bill them for that, put it in escrow, and then we pay the monitor for that.
Right.
But we do have a couple that we're paying for, so.
Right, but Giovanni's point is that it should balance out, right? I mean, in theory, the negative, whatever it is, there should be a money coming in. And then, so I understand what you're saying, there's a timing, but
It needs to show us a revenue.
It's a debit
Somewhere.
to.
somewhere there should be an offset.
Got to balance it.
Yeah.
Should show us total.
November, if you want, there is a line
Same thing.
for it there.
This
Under revenue.
amount is.
Wow, and this is why Dean is Dean.
Got that on.
We're
4-1 account, 4-1. But it doesn't, it says budgeted, but it doesn't have a.
the 4,100 local labor auditing fee pass-through. We did have $7,500 in there.
November.
Yeah.
Budgeted is in there. There should be an income.
I just want to make sure we get the credit.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's all.
Sure.
I think we should
Yeah,
research
that's all.
that and give you a solid answer. Make sure we-
Is there a
100%
way
certain.
Question.
we can
For sure.
just do it during the same month? Is there a reason why we did it earlier? Like brought the money in from escrow earlier?
I do it usually quarterly because we don't get the bills that specific month from the monitors.
That's fine, but it should end up showing in total for the year.
And then Kelly, is there once you have that, and then you have to, does it actually, it comes out of an account we have set aside for them, or is that?
Yes, escrow
Yeah,
account.
Yeah, there's a-
each project has their own escrow account, and then we have a master account that will withdraw the money from each project's account, put it in the master account, and then we'll write a check from the master account back to the IDA.
So wouldn't that show up, I would think under logically, have that someplace in vendor payment approval? So we approve to reimburse ourselves?
Well, I don't think we do put that on that list for you,
Don't.
usually for external
And
payments.
we need a
not
separate
insurance expenses.
sheet in here.
If I could suggest, could we add this to the February Finance Committee agenda? And can we really address this and we'll report it back to you and discuss it?
Yeah.
And then we can report it to the board?
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Can you, Kelly, make sure will you add that for February, please, Kelly? Is that okay, Giovanni?
It's
Yeah,
fine,
yeah.
I hate to make more work for you, but I think.
No,
it's
it's-
important
that's not-
That we capture it, you
It's a
know?
lot.
There's a line item there.
I am more of a fan of having that there so you can, it's,
It's
money in, money should equal money out, and then it should just be a net zero,
Correct.
right? I mean, and so
If to be a
we
real
should be able to
pass-through,
show
right,
it.
yeah.
But the public needs to see that too.
Yeah.
Correct.
But this amount of money is what the IDA is paying, which is one of the projects is a big amount, which was like 5289, and then the other one was just it was like a administration fee to one of our local labor monitors.
Right, but Giovanni's looking for the inflow for when we're getting paid. to
If there is no
We're not
inflow,
gonna get one for this.
then it should be a separate line item that states that it's not a pass-through.
Yeah.
All right, so what you're saying is this is one of the old school
Yeah.
It sounds
ones,
like it.
and so this is an actual expense that we took on.
Yes, and then $560 of it is for one of our monitors that a long time ago, they would charge us per specific project,
Reporting fee?
a
Yeah,
reporting, yes.
All
So
right,
that needs to get broken out.
so I would say, one, we should break that out, and two, that this should not be categorized as a
Yeah,
pass-through.
it's not all pass-through.
Because it's not.
That's why I'd like it to be a finance committee agenda item, because I think we need further discussion, we need to
Thank you.
really delve into it and make sure we've got it straight. That was a great point, thank you.
Good catch, Gio.
Any other questions? Gio?
No.
Definitely picking up a man there.
No, well done. So let's move on to page 7. Talking about CDs, there's really not much to talk about as far as we don't have anything coming due this month. Next month we will, and we can discuss there. But please note, there's a timing issue, just like in OCFC. You see 2.5 million in the checking account. That's because CD came due and has since been reinvested. And so roughly, that account is roughly $540,000, I would say, for our operation expenses. And so next month you will see that money in a CD.
Was that the treasury bill that came due that got put into the checking?
Yes, and that's what contributed to that interest of the, on the previous page of the $83,600.
I'm not sure I totally understood, Mark, but the one with the maturity date for February 20th, which is the day before our next meeting, did we make a decision on that?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is that's going to sit in our checking for
Okay.
roughly a month.
Oh, the whole thing?
The whole thing will
Okay.
sit in checking for a month, and then we will pair it up with the, you'll see the second one down comes due March 26th,
Mhm.
and the last one down comes due March 6th. So when we have all three of those due, then we'll be able to consolidate and come up with a plan as to how we're going to do that.
Mhm.
You know, and I think in the past we discussed, depending on where we're seeing interest rates, 3 months, 6 month, combination, a year, what have you.
Well, that'll be after the feds have their March meeting.
Yeah, I will say right here, right now, with the combination of the revised jobs that came out, that jobs weren't as strong in November and December, and with inflation still hovering at around 4%, really, the Fed, their target is 1.5% to 2%. And so, everyone can say, oh, inflation is down. It's not. It is a compounding number. So it's 4% on top of the 9% on top of, so I will find it I would find it incredibly improbable that the Fed would start cutting rates with inflation still over 2 times what their target is. So I think the expectation that everyone had that this was gonna happen sooner than later, I don't see that until we start seeing that.
I don't see that until September.
Nor
Even
do I.
then, would it be 1/4% type of?
It really will depend on, again, they are going to be watching. I think the frustrating thing in finance is them, they touted these jobs in November and December, and then have to go back and revise them down and say, oh no, our bad. And then to continue to have inflation. If they do, unless they totally miss the mark, unless catastrophe happens, they would have to go slow. It would be a very nominal decrease to see how the market, how the world reacted, and then go forward from there. But there's no way, again, barring a catastrophe, that they'd come out and say, we're gonna cut rates a half, 3/4.
Oh, not that, they're not gonna do a half.
Yeah, that would be shocking.
They may be an election year cut a quarter, like I said, that'll be September.
Again, I think you will need to see at least a month, 2-3 months of, inflation down, below 2.5%.
You're gonna need to see the
Before they
jobs
do
up
that.
too, the jobs report is way too low.
So then, if, when we move or what are we doing with the funds, it would probably be April, right? You said we're ready for them all to mature in that April meeting, because the other ones in
I would say we'll probably talk in March and do what we've done in the past and say, hey, you know, this is what you
Once it
do
becomes
when the March 26th one, you know, marries up, because the other two will already have been, you know, matured. And do our usual, hey guys, you know, for the March meeting, have rates. We'll make a decision on length, on you know, institutions, and do it that way. I think that would be a better way to do it than waiting until our March or our April meeting. So, any other questions about that?
I'm good.
Beautiful. So now, you know, we're highlights as far as our vendor payments. I'll be honest with you, looking at, you know, previous months and where we are, I mean, we're pretty much in line right down the list on page 8. I don't have anything that really jumps out at me that that says something is you know, I think maybe the only thing would be our new marketing, right? Would, you know, be the one number that is increased and we will look at some of that.
We have a little overlap. One firm agency is ending, the other, and little problem we've had with I think both of them is that we don't get all the monthly invoices on time. So sometimes we're not paying 1 month and then we're putting 2 or 3 invoices in front of you. So I'm a little uncomfortable with that. I made that clear, but that is what's happening. But there's a little bit of overlap, but otherwise we're mostly moving to just acquisitions marketing going forward. And Pam for the podcast.
I was gonna say, is there any way that our vendors can be notified that services rendered bills are due within 30 days?
We can reiterate that, yeah, we can.
This
Make
way
that
we
clear.
have consistently when they're coming in, because it's gonna be, if it's more than 30 days, oh well.
Well,
I know you can't say oh well, but at
Right.
least we can.
But Susan, what is sad about your statement is that the way the world normally works, you send your bill out before, you know, and usually it's the payee that's been taught
Oh, I
in
know.
MBA schools to delay payment for 60 or 90 days. And now, you know, we're at the reverse where we're kind of like, hey guys, let's you know, get on the stick here. So,
I'm just saying for budget
Yeah.
purposes, it would be easier if they would notify that we need it within 30 days.
yeah. The other page 9, really isn't much. This is just our legal, our consulting. You know, it's pretty much in line with what we've paid in the past. And then the final page 10, you will see some new things, some interesting things that I think Bill is very excited about. We already talked, we have the membership fee there, we have the you know, liability insurance, but then you get into the podcast that Bill has done. That's some of, you know, you can see those 2 separate groupings, and Bill certainly can speak to that. And then you also see that Chase Connect is again the 401k setup and funding of that program. Bill, did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll just interject, as I mentioned in finance, I think we're getting tremendous traction. I get a ton of messages and calls, and when I go to meetings, people say, oh, I heard you, this, that, and the other. They're hearing both our radio spot, where we have a 60-second, basically a public service announcement on behalf of the IDA, explaining what we do and why we do it, and then the podcast with various guests, but we get into discussion about incentives and things like that. I'm really been impressed with how many people have been telling me they've heard it, so.
Where can we hear it?
It's on a few different radio stations, is it K104?
HUD, you get that over at work.
HUD, I'll give you the station.
WHQ.
Where is that? Is it on there?
It's on there. WHUD 100.7, K1047, and WGH.
GHQ Magic, that's a little bit more adult, you know, but we're getting a lot of traction with that.
What if
So-
you don't listen to the radio?
Well, that's why we're doing a lot of other modes.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, in the podcast now, we're gonna start promoting it in other ways,
Okay,
because people can go to it online on demand.
Yeah.
But we're gonna
that's-
promote it elsewhere so that we're,
That's
you know,
okay,
getting-
good.
acquisitions is helping us with
I
that.
was just saying, Audible, a
Minutes
lot
and
of
News is
people
willing to
listen
do
to
that.
them on like Audible
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
Exactly, exactly, so that it's available to more people.
Bill, would they ever like, if there's, you know, downtime on radio, whatever, they were fill in with like a replay of any of these types of things, or they talk?
I think
about
it seems from my early meetings and then kind of doing the programming, their programming is pretty solid. Like, they know every 5 minutes what they're doing. So I think it's different than, say, social media where, you know, they guarantee you so many impressions, you can get more of this, that, and the other. I think it's pretty scientific what we get.
So the only other thing I thought of as we were sitting discussing is that, do they give us the copy? Do we have copy of the whole?
It lives on their website,
Okay.
and it is something that I think in time I could see us producing. We've talked about that, you know, ourselves, but really they're helping us get it rooted. But it lives on their website, and people go and you can just access it through a player right there.
I was just thinking there's some good sound bites, whatever, maybe we take that and put some of those on our site.
What I was
That's
thinking,
exactly
maybe-
what we're working with acquisitions on, to take pieces of that.
Or just take a link to where the podcast
Yes.
is and embed it in our homepage.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, there's some really good question and answers that we'd like to maybe highlight
Exactly.
and put them on there.
That's what Billy Iverson, at Acquisition is trying to get us towards, is we're giving him the files, we're trying to take some pieces and highlight those. So.
Good.
I think he's already done some of that social media. Actually, I've seen some of those posts where, if you look at our social, you'll see it's got one where it looks like radio waves coming out, and it's some of my audio on that. So
Yeah,
doing
they're
some
still
of that.
not tagging us in that.
Not tagging like people,
Us,
our,
the board,
as
when they
members.
make those posts on social media.
You want to have your individual account
Yeah,
tagged?
yeah, because this
I'm
way
gonna
I
ask each of you
can
about
post it
that.
to my page and, you know, my 3,000 people, it shows up in 25 of theirs, but still, you know.
Well, now that you said that, maybe something else too as well, is that, you know, if somebody visits the site or whatever, you know, sometimes, whatever town you live in, right, town of Newburgh, like, you know, they give you notifications or whatever,
Right.
maybe something like that, I don't know how that works, but you
Well,
sign
if
up
I-
for notifications.
If I'm tagged on it, then I can, you know, make sure I put it on my page, because otherwise I'm not gonna get it in the
Right.
feed of Umpteen. And then, yeah, I can in turn, you know, groups that I belong to, I can share it to them,
Mhm.
but without
And
knowing
we,
that.
are we not, do you follow us now? Are we in your feed?
I follow you,
Okay.
but,
Not coming up is,
yeah, I mean, there's so many people in
haven't
that
seen it.
feed.
okay. All right, let me talk to them about that. And I'll probably, again, poll each person to make sure they're comfortable with that. Who's
Yeah.
gonna have the account?
Me, I'm
You are.
okay with it, my life is, you know, it is what it is.
Right.
Anything else, Mark, on financial report?
I'm done.
Other questions for Mark? A motion to accept the finance committee, including the new business items of December 2023 financials, the December 2023 and January 2024 payables, and I don't think we had any action item on the certificate of deposit.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Giovanni, second to that motion.
Second.
Dean, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. And I think that concludes the listed items on our agenda. Before I ask to go into executive session, I would just note our next meeting, I believe, is February 20th, immediately following our OCFC meeting, which begins at 5 o'clock.
February 21st.
Oh, 21st, you got me back. I was looking at the wrong month. Thank you, 21st.
We're even.
Yeah. With that, I would like to ask the board to consider executive session to discuss personnel. Would anyone make that motion?
I'll make the
Dean
motion.
Tenbury makes the motion, second
Second.
by Mark Green. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. We'll move into executive session.
It wouldn't be any action.
I don't expect any action. Sue Katzoff, do you have a comment on that?
I do not.
Okay,
I don't anticipate your taking action either.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're back in regular session after executive session. No action was taken in executive session. I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Who made the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Motion by Mark, second by Dean. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night.